The next morning, I woke up to a flood of texts from Jenna. They started as apologies. "I'm so sorry. Please let me explain." Then came the justifications. "It was a mistake. I was drunk." Finally, the desperate pleas. "Please, don't throw away what we have. I love you." I stared at my phone for a long time, unsure how to respond. Part of me wanted to throw it against the wall, to scream at her for what she'd done. But another part, the one still clinging to the love we shared, wanted to hear her out. I wasn't ready to make any decisions, so I left her messages unanswered. That day, I went for a long drive, trying to clear my head. I found myself at the park where Jenna and I had our first date. I sat on the same bench where we had once laughed about how awkward first dates could be. Back then, I had felt so lucky to have found someone like her, someone who seemed to genuinely care about me. The memory felt like a cruel joke now. By the time I got home, I was emotionally drained. Jenna was waiting outside my apartment, her face streaked with tears. I wanted to tell her to leave, to demand she never show her face again. But seeing her standing there, looking so broken, made me pause. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She started talking immediately, her words tumbling out in a frantic rush. She blamed the alcohol, the stress of the party, even her unresolved feelings for her ex. She swore it was a one-time mistake, that it would never happen again. She begged me to forgive her, to not let one moment ruin everything we had built. I sat in silence, letting her words wash over me. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to convince myself that this was just a blip, a mistake we could move past. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with him, heard her whispering that she had missed him. How could I ever trust her again? When she finally stopped talking, I took a deep breath and said, "I need time. Don't call me. Don't text me. I need to figure out what I want." She nodded, fresh tears streaming down her face, and left without another word. As the door closed behind her, I felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow. Part of me hoped that time apart would give me clarity, but another part already knew the truth. Our relationship was broken, and no amount of time would fix it. Over the next few days, I confided in a few close friends. Their reactions were a mix of shock, anger, and pity. My best friend, Mark, was the most vocal. "Dude, you can't marry her. She cheated on you at your engagement party. If she can't stay faithful now, what makes you think she will after you're married?" It was harsh, but he wasn't wrong. Still, a small, stubborn part of me kept clinging to the idea that maybe, just maybe, we could work through this. That thought haunted me as I lay awake at night, replaying the events of that disastrous evening. 1 week later, Jenna broke the silence. She showed up at my workplace unannounced, clutching a handwritten letter. She asked if I could find it in my heart to read it. Reluctantly, I agreed, tucking it into my bag with no intention of opening it anytime soon. That night, curiosity got the better of me. I unfolded the letter and started reading. It was filled with heartfelt apologies and promises to change. She admitted that she had unresolved feelings for her ex, but insisted that they were now completely gone. She painted a picture of a future where we could move past this and be stronger for it. The letter was beautifully written, but it didn't move me the way she probably hoped it would. Words were easy. Trust? That was something else entirely. Still, I couldn't bring myself to throw the letter away. I stuffed it back into my bag, where it joined the growing pile of unanswered questions and unresolved feelings. A few days later, I made a decision. I asked Jenna to meet me at a cafe we used to frequent. When she arrived, she looked hopeful, almost radiant, as if she believed this meeting would be the start of our reconciliation. I hated that I was about to shatter that hope. "Jenna," I began, my voice steady but firm, I've thought a lot about what happened, about us, and I've realized something. I can't marry you. I can't spend my life with someone I can't trust. Her face crumpled, and for a moment, I thought she might collapse. Please, she whispered, don't do this. I love you. I loved you too, I said, my voice cracking. But love isn't enough. You broke something between us, something I don't think we can ever get back. She begged me to reconsider, her tears drawing the attention of nearby diners. But my mind was made up. I left her there, sobbing into her hands, and walked away without looking back. Breaking off the engagement was one of the hardest things I've ever done. For weeks, I felt like a part of me was missing. I avoided calls from mutual friends, ignored questions from family members, and threw myself into work to distract myself from the pain. But as time went on, I started to feel a sense of peace. I realized that Jenna's betrayal, as painful as it was, had taught me something valuable. It showed me the importance of self-respect and boundaries. It reminded me that love, no matter how strong, cannot thrive without trust. Months later, I heard through the grapevine that Jenna had gotten back together with her ex. The news didn't sting as much as I thought it would. If anything, it confirmed that I had made the right decision. She belonged in my past, not my future. As for me, I'm still healing. I've started dating again, cautiously opening myself up to the possibility of love. It's not easy, and there are days when the scars of betrayal feel as fresh as ever. But I'm learning to trust again, not just others, but myself. Looking back, I'm grateful for the lessons this experience taught me. It wasn't the fairy tale ending I had envisioned, but it was a necessary chapter in my story. And as painful as it was, it made me stronger. It reminded me that I deserve a love that's honest, faithful, and true. A love that will never leave me questioning my worth. I caught my fiancée making out with her ex-boyfriend at our engagement party. Let that sink in. The person I was planning to spend the rest of my life with decided to betray me in front of our closest friends and family on a night meant to celebrate us. The memory of that moment is burned into my mind like a scar that refuses to fade. The next morning, Jenna came home, her face streaked with tears. She was sobbing uncontrollably, apologizing profusely. "I'm sorry," she cried. I was overwhelmed by everything: the engagement, the attention it brought up, old feelings I didn't know I still had. She claimed it was a mistake, a meaningless lapse in judgment, and begged me to forgive her. But here's the thing: it wasn't meaningless to me. It meant everything. Trust, loyalty, and the love I thought we had, it all shattered in an instant. How do you forgive someone who rips apart the foundation of everything you believed in? How do you move past a betrayal that feels like a knife to the heart? For days, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together. The image of her with him haunted me. Her words kept replaying in my head like a broken record, and none of it made sense. Why would she do this? Why now, when we were about to start a new chapter of our lives? The more I thought about it, the more questions surfaced. Had there been other lies I didn't catch? Had she been in contact with her ex this whole time? Was this just the first time she was caught? Or had there been other moments of weakness? I found myself analyzing our entire relationship under a microscope. Were there signs I had missed? Red flags I had ignored because I loved her? Now that I thought about it, there were moments when she had seemed distant or evasive. Times when her explanations didn't quite add up. I had brushed them off back then, thinking I was overthinking or being paranoid. But now, I couldn't stop wondering if I had been blind to the truth. Friends and family started noticing that something was off. When they asked how the party went, I lied. I wasn't ready to share what had happened. Wasn't ready for the questions or the pity. I needed time to sort through the wreckage of my emotions, to figure out what I was supposed to do next. Meanwhile, Jenna was relentless. She flooded my phone with text messages and voicemails, each one more desperate than the last. She said all the right things. That she loved me, that she was sorry, that she'd do anything to make it up to me. But her words felt empty. How could I believe her when she'd already proven she could lie so easily? Forgiveness, people say, is a choice. But what they don't tell you is how much it costs. Even if I could forgive her, how could I ever trust her again? Every time she'd be late coming home, every time her phone buzzed with a notification, I'd wonder. Every time she'd go out with friends, I'd be consumed with doubt. That's no way to live. I keep coming back to the same question. How does someone cheat at their own engagement party? It's not just the betrayal, it's the audacity, the recklessness. It felt like a slap in the face, a blatant disregard for me and everything we had built together. The worst part was pretending everything was okay when it wasn't. After catching Jenna and her ex outside, I had walked away without causing a scene. I didn't yell or lash out. I just left them there and went back inside, where our friends and family were still laughing, dancing, and celebrating. On the outside, I smiled and made small talk, but inside, I was unraveling. I felt like a fool, like I had been played in the cruelest way possible. The days that followed were a blur of anger, sadness, and confusion. I didn't know who to turn to. Everyone around me thought Jenna and I were the perfect couple, and part of me was too ashamed to admit how wrong they were. How could I explain that the woman I was supposed to marry had betrayed me in such a public, humiliating way? At night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to the same thoughts. Was this the person I had fallen in love with? The woman I had spent 3 years building a life with? Or had I been blind to who she really was all along? Jenna, of course, kept insisting it was a mistake. She claimed it meant nothing, that she wasn't even sure why it happened. But her excuses only made me angrier. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a choice. She chose to kiss him. She chose to betray me. And she chose to do it on a night that was supposed to be about our love and our future. I started to remember the good times, the laughter, the late night talks, the way she used to look at me like I was the only person in the world. Those memories made it even harder. How could someone who claimed to love me do something so cruel? At the same time, I began to question my own judgment. Had I been too trusting? Too naive? In hindsight, there were moments when her stories didn't add up, but I had always given her the benefit of the doubt. I had believed in her because I wanted to believe in us. Now everything felt like a lie. One night, I sat down and looked at the engagement ring I had given her. It felt heavy in my hand, like it carried the weight of all the promises we had made to each other, promises she had broken. Part of me wanted to throw it away, to erase every trace of her from my life. But another part of me, the part that still loved her, hesitated. I couldn't deny that I still cared about her, even after everything she had done. That's the cruel irony of love. It doesn't just disappear, even when it's been betrayed. But love isn't enough to fix something this broken. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, and without it, there's nothing to build on. I knew that, deep down. I just wasn't ready to admit it yet. In the days that followed, I started to distance myself from Jenna. I stopped answering her calls, stopped responding to her texts. I needed space to think, to figure out what I wanted and what I deserved. When I finally told a close friend what had happened, their reaction was exactly what I needed. "You deserve better," they said. "Someone who loves you and respects you, not someone who takes you for granted." Their words stuck with me. For the first time in days, I felt a glimmer of clarity. Jenna had made her choice, and now I had to make mine. Staying with her would mean living with doubt and insecurity, always wondering if she'd betray me again. Walking away would mean starting over, but it would also mean reclaiming my self-respect. As I sit here now, staring at the engagement ring one last time. I know what I have to do. Love isn't about grand gestures or pretty words. It's about trust, loyalty, and respect. And once those things are broken, no amount of apologies can put them back together. I don't know what the future holds, but one thing is certain. I deserve someone who chooses me, and only me, every single day. And that person isn't Jenna.